Greetings and welcome to Fresh Text. Fresh Text is a weekly podcast where we study a scripture passage drawn usually from the Revised Common Lectionary, but we hope always seasonally appropriate. We hope it'll be enjoyable and edifying for all listeners, but equipping especially for pastors and teachers who are preparing sermons and lessons in the upcoming weeks. I'm your host, John Drury. I'm professor of New Testament and spiritual formation at Indiana Wesleyan University in Marion, Indiana. And my guest this week is Dr. Bud Bence. Bud is emeritus professor of church history here at Indiana Wesleyan University, taught here for quite a few decades. He was one of my teachers and a senior colleague of mine when I returned here to teach. And it's very much an honor to have him today discussing a precious text to him and to me, one I've gotten to hear him talk about before. It's 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 6 through 8 and 16 through 18, although pretty much anything in chapter 4 is fair game. And so we're going to explore this a little bit together. So if you're following along, though, we'll be in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 6 through 8 and 16 through 18. If you find yourself enjoying the show today, make sure to press that share button on your podcast player app to let others know about the show as well. Word of mouth is our best marketing, so we appreciate that if you're willing to do that. And thanks for listening and enjoy this conversation with Bud. 1 Timothy 4, 6 through 8, and then jumping down to 16 through 18.
Will do, John. These are the words of Paul. For I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure has come. I have fought a good fight. I have finished the course, and I have kept the faith. In the future there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have loved his appearing. At my first defense, no one supported me, but all deserted me. May it not be counted against them. But the Lord stood with me and strengthened me, so that through me the proclamation might be fully accomplished, and that all the Gentiles might hear. And I was rescued out of the lion's mouth. The Lord will rescue me from every evil deed, and will bring me safely to his heavenly kingdom. To him be glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, the word of the Lord.
Yeah, you are right.
Thanks
Words
be
of
to
Paul
God.
that become the word of the Lord for us in this passage.
Yeah,
and I'm intrigued, John, by why I'm invited.
Sorry, please don't be insulted by that.
Here is this octogenarian
Yeah.
who has finally reached that point, who we're going to be talking of Paul's farewell message, and Bud Bence is the perfect person to come talk about swan songs, and I'm kind of intrigued and enjoying this humorous moment in my life.
Yeah. Well, of course, it wasn't meant to insult you, but to honor you.
Yeah.
And I do actually recall, I believe it was on you did your finale lecture.
Yeah.
A few years back. And I believe you did a short little teaching on the little triplet, fought the good fight.
Actually, it was the last summit. I was asked to the opportunity to speak at Summit here, and to the students, it was right at it was the end.
That's when it was. Okay.
And so I wanted to do something on finishing well. And this was the passage that I picked to talk about for a little bit. But,
yeah. So that just kind of brought it to mind.
Yeah.
And
that was the closure of my full-time teaching. I went on to teach and preach after that for a while, John. But it was kind of the closure. And so this seemed fitting. But what's fitting now is that was 15 years ago, give or take. Now I look at this passage very differently. I don't look at it as the end of my career. And Paul didn't either. Paul wasn't talking about end of career. Paul was talking about looking at his perspective on his life and what it was and how he would describe it. So
that's interesting. Yeah. Because in terms of like Paul's active years in terms of planting churches, that season was over for him in some sense, had been for a little bit. the chronology in Acts gives us at least 2 years in Caesarea
Mm-hmm.
in prison under the Felix and Festus. And then a reference after the shipwreck and all that, you get another 2 years mentioned at the end of Acts 28. So where this comes in that sequence is unknown, but at the very least, he's spent quite a bit of time where his ministry is pretty much just letter writing now. Is all that's left of his ministry in terms of public ministry, you could say. He still has the inner ministry of his intercession for his churches, but
you have the epistles and these references that I'm sending this message with. So, and we'll get these at the end of, even at the end of 2 Timothy. I'm sending my message out to various people through my assistants now. And of course, this is the story of Timothy. He's writing out this letter to Timothy at this particular point. It's interesting that earlier, let me go, Philippians, Paul says, this one thing I do, I press on. It's a very futurist. At that point, he still is aggressively looking ahead. I press on to the goal of the high calling.
I'm willing to die. It's a gain for me to die, but I think he's going to keep me here because there's work still to be done. It's kind of more the attitude. Yeah.
And then this one is apparently a sentence has been given. It strikes me that he may very well know that the end is coming in some sense with the Romans. This reference to no one was there to defend him in verse 16. At my first defense, no one supporting me. So there's John, the thing about this is it's kind of melancholy.
Yeah.
It's not we read this quite often. I've got the good fight. I've run the race. You read through this passage, he talks of Demas forsaking him and talking of he's cold and wants his cloak and all of this. It's kind of a sad moment in his life. But in the midst of that sad moment, this wonderful doxology of his life. I've fought a good fight, run the race. I've kept the faith.
Yeah.
Oh, that we could all say that as we come to that final closure of whatever life may be.
Yeah, and as you say that, it hits me that if we read it too kind of triumphalistically, we'll actually miss it. It actually makes more sense to hear this is what he's clinging to in the midst of a season of diminishment and
probably
dissipation.
Not the way he wanted it to end. I think he would have had another view of what he would do in Rome besides being in the Mamertine prison waiting to have his head removed. But in that kind of situation, you ever been to the prison, John, in Rome?
No, I've seen pictures.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. I didn't.
You go down these steps. I mean, it's legend probably, but at least it's close. And you go down these steps into this kind of dark hole. And I remember being down there and just imagining this is where Paul's writing his final letters, especially this one. And he's not quitting. He's not quitting. And I don't think he's bitter. It's melancholy. It's not bitterness that comes through here. A kind of sadness. But he's not angry at Demas who forsakes him. He's not mad at Alexander who said things against him. I like it. I like the attitude he has.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, even the line of like, may the Lord not hold it against them. Yeah. You can't imagine the Galatians era Paul speaking this way. He's a little, there's something, there's a certain meekness, appropriate kind of meekness, a releasement, the asserting of his rights and his place and his position and what he, not just for himself, but for the sake of his mission comes through, in Galatians and the Corinthian correspondence. Yeah. And, this is, maybe 10 years later and it's also it's not just age though. It's also circumstance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons I wanted this is you are so good with Greek. I want to go back. Let's start at it. Can we look at verse 6?
Yeah.
I am being poured out as a drink offering. And in the little reading I've done on this one, you got two directions to go. You've got Saul the Jewish, person talking, and you've got Paul the Roman. What I read was there's a drink offering in the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a sacrifice for sin. It's more often a libation of thanksgiving. If you have a sacrifice, the last thing you do is you dash a good pile of Chardonnay right on the top of it. And instead of drinking it, you pour it out to the Lord. A wonderful gesture of thanksgiving. That's the Jewish tradition. And the Roman tradition is at a Roman feast, after you finish the meal in the evening, you always took a glass of wine and you poured it out wherever your little altar was. And you poured it out to the gods as kind of an acknowledgement.
And also a drinking. I mean, even the language of sacrifice is so lost on us now.
Yeah.
As, I lose this thing by giving it up.
Uh-huh.
Whereas, I mean, sacrifice is rooted in the language of sharing. Which of course is,
Mm-hmm.
for me to share a meal with you means I have a little bit less to eat. But to think of sacrifice as a meal with
Mm-hmm.
the god or gods, right?
Yeah.
And by pouring it out, you're at least symbolically sort of saying, I just sat and I got to drink with the gods, right? They were here.
Yeah.
They were here with me.
Even though Paul is Christian, of course, I lean towards the Roman idea that the meal's over. We're coming down to the end. I want to pour out my drink offering. You pagans do it to your gods.
Right.
I am pouring out my life, perhaps my blood, as the wine of gratitude, of sharing the meal with God at the end.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be, as you mentioned with the Old Testament allusion that's possibly there. Your description made it sound like it kind of comes at the end as well.
Okay,
it's a way of finishing off
an offering.
It's the
another
drink,
offering,
right?
Yeah.
And so, he's given his life. Is this the same verb used? I don't think it is, but it might be in Philippians, because he talks about being poured out.
Oh yeah,
in Philippians. That's a little mini word study. It's Philippians 3, verse maybe I'm not going to be able to find it fast enough. Actually, I should just look and see if it says it. It's Philippians 2:17.
But even if I am being poured out as a drink offering
upon
this, that's Jewish.
Spendomai.
And that looks more like a Jewish. If I am poured out on a drink offering upon the sacrifice of your service. Maybe it's Jewish.
I think it's both and.
It could be.
Because the language of sacrifice, like sacrificial system was common. This is just all ancient peoples knew what this was about. The Jews were unique in their monotheism and in their lack of a object, an idol. Otherwise, sacrifices were common. This was just standard to all civil religion at the time.
Yeah.
So, and these are, so I think the language can resonate in both directions. And either the way, it, notice it is a great contrast, because in Philippians it's if, right? Wasn't it if?
Yeah.
17. Was it Philippians 2:17? Now I'm like,
get back.
Now I'm really excited. But if I'm poured out as a drink offering on the sacrifice and on the worship for your faith,
even if
I rejoice, and and I quote, so
now it's happening.
Whereas here it's I myself am already being poured out, right? So it's happening. And then the next line is even more striking, right? And the kairos, the moment, the hour, the season, the moment, the time of my...
What's the word in Greek?
Oh, man.
In Greek, I've done it.
Analuseos mu. So yeah, departure.
Casting off was what one of the commentaries highlighted. It's used quite often of ships as they just as they are ready to depart.
That sounds right.
Just recently was on a boat, John, and fascinated with this. Everybody's getting ready for the boat to leave, and the casting off of the lines where they unwrap them from the post and let the boat loose, and it moves. And so there's
That imagery helps.
Paul is saying, you know,
we've all loaded on. We're all like
we're ready. It's used for unloading a cart. You know, when you unharness an animal and let them free. You know, the job is over. We're going to put you out to pasture. The time of my unloosing might be a very good way of saying it. Has come.
Because it's from that word to loosen. Yeah, and Second Peter uses that same kind of phrasing. Yeah, so I mean, it's very clear that he knows it's almost over, and then that's when he introduces this famous triplet in verse 7, right?
Assessment, John,
self-assessment.
You and I live in a world of the last 20 years where everything is assessing, everything is outcomes. You know, you got to stop. And if I were writing a sermon on it, a new sermon on it, I would probably talk about Paul's final self-assessment. We take these inventories. How are you doing with 1 to 5 kind of thing? Paul just does it in 3 simple statements. I've kept the faith. I've fought a good fight. But I'm fascinated with the fought the good fight. What do you think's? I thought that was military. When you talk about fighting, just looking at several people who've delved into this deeper than I have, they think all 3 are around the athletic games. In the athletic games, there was wrestling, boxing. I've fought a good fight. I've run the race. I've run the race, kept the faith. There's a place earlier in 2 Timothy where he talks about a soldier. There's a soldier, an athlete, and a farmer. He has 3 things. It's in 2 Timothy 2. And I wanted to connect the 2 up and say, okay, the fight.
Maybe they go with those.
But most people say, no, because the crown that he talks about here is the laurel that you get.
Right. Yeah, it's a Stephanos, right?
Yeah.
Not a diadem, right?
Diadem is power. When you have a diadem, it's about power,
right? Because it's a crown that you would take and put the jewels from some other people that you've colonized. You take their rubies. I mean, you think even the crown jewels of the Queen of England, or King now, a lot of those rubies and things in that are from different lands that have been conquered. It's an imperial symbol.
The diamond of India is the center of that whole thing. Yeah,
right. So it's rooted in domination over others.
The laurel is a bunch of branches that will be gone pretty much tomorrow. You don't even have a trophy case for laurels. If it were the Olympics today, I'd show my 7 gold medals, Mark Spitz kind of thing. But
and the language of a crown that doesn't fade. It's why crown is a bad translation. Really, it's misleading because there's literally another word for crown as we think of it in the modern world.
Oh yeah,
diadem's that. That's a Greek word, diademos, and it means crown in that sense of a physical object with jewels on it. Or a stable object. So even like a crown that doesn't fade, you're kind of like, well, I mean, I don't know. Crown jewels have been around a long time, last a lot longer than me. But a laurel doesn't last. It's just a very temporary symbol of you won the day.
Accomplishment.
Right.
Yeah. You have achieved.
Yeah.
And for the athlete who gets it tomorrow, I got to keep going. No,
I like the athletic take on it. Because the agona, the agony, which is the root word for agony.
Is that the word?
Yeah, fought? It's agona, but for the fought the good fight, yeah. But it is the wrestling language.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's not hostility. It's not I went after these guys. I mean, in the sense of attacking Satan or attacking evil. It's I have struggled. I've been victorious in the struggles of whatever are involved. Now here's one that I wanted to ask you. Stephanos. That's also the name of a martyr in the church.
Yeah, wow.
And it is where we first, in all of the biblical account, hear of the Apostle Paul. Yeah. And I wonder if there's a bridging that is here. The first First occurrence of Paul is a Stephanos, and it's a person about to die, and he is intrigued. He holds the clothing, but something happened
Proving
there.
of their death. Yeah.
And now he comes to the end, and I don't think he's thinking, well, maybe he is thinking about Stephen, because he's about to encounter.
Well, and it doesn't have to be in his head to be a canonical connection. Right.
Like, we can do that.
That's right.
We
That's
can talk
appropriate.
about the Stephanos.
The fact that the church has collected all these things together and called it, that's the New Testament.
Gives us the right.
That's right.
To draw lines that maybe not.
That's right. It doesn't have to be in his head to be true.
But But as you look at this from the standpoint of Stephen,
I think it's a clear connection.
Stephen is looking up and he sees God sitting, there's a crown waiting for me. I think Paul must have been thinking about Stephen, if not referring to it directly here. That had to be in his mind. And then it got me thinking, church history, John, all of those people who waited execution. Polycarp in the early church, who knows when he goes to the arena.
You have the two kinds of martyrdom, like Stephen as a young man being martyred quickly in a fit of rage.
Right,
which happens. And then those...
the cold deliberateness.
Right. Which is almost more...
Tyndale, John Latimer, those people that, at the time of the Reformation were marched through the street, and they knew that this was the I have fought the good fight moment, all the way to Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who probably knew that there was a good chance that he would have to pay the drink offering at that point in his life.
And how different how different and yet also common him and Stephen's experience then are.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's, when I look at this passage, and as I say, at the age that I am, I become reflective. People when they get old start to reflect back. But it's very different to say, I'm looking at my life from the perspective of I might have another 20 years, as it is for Paul to say, I am looking at my life here in prison. The sentence has been given.
Yeah.
This is probably where it ends. And then he can say at that moment, good fight. I've struggled. I've won the struggle. I like that better than I fought the fight. I overcome in the struggle. And I've run a race, a good race. Being able to finish well, to look at your own life and say, it wasn't perfect. Paul had his flaws. He would admit that, I'm sure. But to look at the life and say, it was a good run. That's the way we'd say it, probably, John. It was a good run.
It's a good run. Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break and come back and explore some more. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And we're back. Welcome back to Fresh Text. I'm here with my guest, Bud Bence, and we are looking at 2 Timothy chapter 4, 6 through 8, and then 16 through 18. Let's kind of zoom in on 16 through 18. I'll just read it fresh so it's in our ears. So starting at 16. So at my first defense, apologia, at my first defense, no one was with me. No one was with me. But all abandoned me. May it not be counted against them. Mm-hmm.
Lord lay this. Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah.
17. Yet the Lord stood by me and gave power to me, empowered me, so that through me the proclamation may be fulfilled, and all the Gentiles might hear, all the nations might hear. So I was rescued from the mouth of a lion, or the lion's mouth. And then 18, the Lord will rescue me from every evil attack and save me or preserve me for his heavenly kingdom, for his kingdom which is in heaven. To him be the glory unto the age of ages. Amen.
What do you see there, John?
Yeah.
What do you
A
like?
couple things, and so let me just float this by you. It kind of undermines the whole conversation, and so I hate to be, and I don't think this is true. It's just a thought experiment.
Okay.
Someone pointed out to me one time that the description in verse 7 of the Lord coming and standing next to me sounds a lot like something narrated in Acts chapter 23, which takes place in Caesarea, not in Rome.
Oh, okay.
And so, I mean, maybe we'll just keep a finger there. Again, a year and a half ago, when we did this text in Acts, so apologies for listeners who are like, yeah, John. But it's not a thing that I thought much of. Until I saw it a couple years ago. He says that night, this is Acts 23:11. That night, the Lord, that same language, which in Luke and in Paul, most of the New Testament, when they say the Lord, they mean the risen Jesus. That's who they're talking about. That's not a generic God came to me. It's Jesus, the risen Jesus, the Lord, who appears to Paul more than once, not just in Damascus. Appears to him in Damascus, appears to him in the temple.
Mm-hmm.
A few years later, which he narrates in chapter 22. He appears to him in chapter 18 in Corinth and tells him to stay in Corinth. So we know that the Lord appears to Paul sometimes, often at night. So at night, the Lord stood near him, that is Paul, and said, "Take heart."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
look at that.
right. For just as you have testified for me in Jerusalem, so you must bear witness also in Rome. Right. And then you look at the context here, and he says in 17, the Lord stood by me. Right. Is it the same?
Right. Strengthened me.
Yeah, it's a little different, but it's very similar. The Lord stood by me and strengthened me, so that through me the proclamation may be fulfilled and all the Gentiles might hear. And in Paul's mind, like, there's a sense in which, yeah, he wants to tell every literal. I mean, we tend sometimes read into all the nations. In Paul's mind, the primary sense is not that I've talked to every single unreached people group. I mean, of course he cares about that, but that's that's kind of missing the point in his mind. To locally, for him, it's like, if I can get to Rome,
Jerusalem and Rome.
that's right. If I can get to Rome, right,
Okay.
then this calling that was laid on my life from the beginning, right, will be complete.
The centers of two places. I mean, the Jewish, God's people, Jerusalem, the center of the Gentiles, the pagans, whatever, ethnoi, whatever, Rome. Yeah.
Right. So either, if this is fresh on his mind,
Yeah.
then that means this letter's written in Caesarea earlier than we usually think. I don't think that's the case, but that is a thing to throw in.
It is.
That he might have thought it was going to go down there, or that he's referring back to that. Now, it could be that there's an additional apparition of the risen Jesus to him, and it's just a coincidence that it sounds so similar. But it seems to me that either, we're...
So you're going to load the Lord stood with me with a little more weight than we do. I mean, we typically, typically do, we say,
Jesus is with me. It's like, no. Yeah, the risen Lord Jesus had a special apparition to me, which we know has happened to him multiple times.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take that a lot more strongly, especially because of the language. Stood by me, par este me, stood by me, right?
Yeah.
Stand by me, right? But I mean, it's not. It's.
But jump that back. Just go back up to verse 8.
Mm-hmm.
The crown that everyone gets.
Yes.
First of all, it's the righteous judge. Paul has been before enough judges who are unrighteous judges.
That's right.
Paul is saying, at the end of my life, I don't have to worry about Agrippa. I don't have to worry about Caesar. I only stand before the righteous God. But there he says, and all those who loved, I guess it's past tense, all those who have loved his appearing. I was intrigued by appearing. Is that his first appearing? I mean, is it Christmas, John? Is it? Most people think that it's second coming, that it's anticipation. But what you're just talking about is it's all of those people who have had an encounter with Jesus. And for Paul, it was pretty graphic. Perhaps for some of the rest of us, we can't say we ever saw the Lord standing. But all of those people who love it when Jesus shows up.
Yeah, it's what they want to happen.
Yeah.
Even if they've not seen it the way that some have seen it. All those who love his appearing. Yeah, the English translations avoid the confusion of that by saying longed for or set their hearts on, cherish his appearing. But it is just the word for love.
Yeah.
It's striking.
And which one of us can't say that at some point in our life there has been a moment where God has stood with us and we can identify an appearing. I mean, again, you say various ranges on there. I'm not trying to make it all physical, but I could spend a few minutes telling some encounters. I thought God was real.
Yeah.
His presence was real, very real. And I love his appearing. Perhaps, what about the lion's mouth? You know, the first thing.
That was the thing that jumped out to me the most when you read. Because I'm like, what is going on there?
Because Paul didn't have to worry about lions. He was a Roman citizen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we look at that and we see the paintings we've seen of the lions chewing up the Christians kind of thing. That's probably not what Paul is. The lion, who is the lion? He delivered me and I was rescued. Now, do we go back to Agrippa? Do we go back? Who is it Satan? Who is this lion who is about to devour Paul? God delivered me.
Yeah. We pause for just 1 minute. Can you bring the mic a little closer? It's chopping out, and it may have nothing to do with you.
Let's try it.
It could just be plugged in wrong. But okay, so we'll come back in there. So the lion's mouth, of course, like the Daniel story is well known at his time, and was very much a beloved story for diaspora Jews, for Jews in the dispersion, which makes sense because I mean the whole point of the story is like, you know, keep kosher and you'll go to prayers no matter what, right? It's almost, I mean, other than the apocalyptic stuff at the end, it doesn't have a lot to say to Jews back in Palestine. It actually makes sense that there's different versions of Daniel in Greek that have different chapters, extra chapters that aren't in the Hebrew Bible and the versions of Protestant Bibles. So Greek Orthodox Bibles, their Daniel has like 3 extra chapters and stuff like that, which would make sense because this would have been very popular literature in the diaspora, and Paul is some sort of diaspora Jew. He also has deep roots in Jerusalem, but his sister lives there and stuff. But
so this could be a passing reference at almost every.
I just wonder, and I'm only saying that I'd have to do more research to know if this has become a stock phrase among diaspora Jews to talk about the threat to their faithfulness from Babylon, from Persia. I mean, it's Babylon, right? And Babylon's always code for Rome. Okay. We know that in later literature. Now, I don't know if that code's up and running yet in Paul. That's debated. But by the time you get to Peter's letters, which, I mean...
And there you get the roaring lion.
And in the classic dating, in the kind of traditional dating, these letters are simultaneous. Peter's letters and Timothy, Paul's letters to Timothy are around the same time. So... he refers to Rome as Babylon there. So, but yeah, you're right. The roaming lion too. So it could have kind of Satan imagery. It could be Babylon versus Daniel imagery. So I feel like there's a lot of possible resonances. Right. I don't have a certainty because there's a little part of me that wants to say that you're right that he wouldn't be at risk of the lions as a Roman citizen, right? He wouldn't be in danger of being, I mean, he could get stoned at the side of the road, but not legally.
Right.
Right.
He
not
wouldn't
going to be crucified.
Wouldn't certainly be brought into the arena without an appeal to Caesar at that point. Yeah.
Right. Having said that, two things come to mind. One is the very fact that his Roman citizenship saves his neck, he would regard as a
the Lord delivered me.
Right. That's how he would talk. So that's the first thing I'd say. So the second, and maybe connected to that, is it possible that under Nero there was a kind of lawlessness where even citizens were not being respected? Like, I mean, that's the reputation he has, not just among Christian writers. All writers kind of talk like everything just broke down. He was just so kind of wild.
He had certainly experienced whippings and beatings and other things that were not appropriate to a Roman citizen.
Right. So I do wonder if even while he was in, I mean, again, now we're speculating, but that's okay. It's fun. Just as long as we flag that we are. It's not implausible to think that he almost got dragged into the stadium and at the last minute, actually, that guy's a Roman citizen, kind of. There's enough of those stories where it got too far and got cut off just at the right moment.
That I was delivered.
Because of his, and I think he would see that as a deliverance and narrate it accordingly.
And then projects it into the future in the next verse. And the Lord will rescue me from all evil deeds.
Which is wild, because he's told us he knows he's going down.
Yeah. And the Lord will deliver me from.
So what does he mean by that?
Yeah.
That was my last question that was lingering with me.
It's that wonderful, I mean, you talk about a beautiful end, and he will bring me safely to his heavenly kingdom. I'm trying to think of the song that ends, no more a stranger, but a guest, and like a child at home. There is there's something that says, whatever's ahead of me in the next few weeks, months, whatever, I'm going safely home.
Mm-hmm.
Mooring lines have been cut. I'm drifting. You almost get back to Lord of the Rings and the boats going out, to into whatever is eternity or whatever kind of thing. I'm heading out to another shore in my life at this particular point.
And you get the sense that even if there's a kind of earthly, mundane meaning to verse 17, I've been delivered in a specific way. In 18, there's clearly a shift of not. It doesn't sound like he's saying
I'll get delivered the same way,
right,
over and over again. No,
I think he knows, but the deliverance that matters most, right?
And that's good for us to remember, John. There are two deliverances. Whether it's cancer, there are some people that are delivered by the cancer going away. There are other people who are delivered by the Lord taking people safely home. I mean, deliverance doesn't always have to be that I get back to where I was and everything's okay again. With God, deliverance is, I know where I'm taking you, I know where you're going, and I'll get you there.
Yeah, and I don't want to read too much into it, but I do wonder in verse 18, especially thinking in a kind of first century honor shame kind of culture, like, is there some sense in which he's saying the Lord will deliver me from every evil work? If there's some sense in which I know that even I'm not going to die in dishonor, right? That he's going to protect this. He's going to make sure this death goes in a way that, because there are different ways, especially in the ancient world, how you die mattered a lot. Like, we talk about that, but we tend to focus a lot on the question of suffering. At least he just didn't suffer, people will say, right? Or at least he got to say goodbye, or all the things that will locate it more relationally and psychologically, kind of suffering and relationships. And I'm not devaluing that. I'm just saying in the ancient world, there are ways of dying without a burial, for instance. I'm reading the Odyssey right now in preparation for the Christopher Nolan movie next summer. Yeah. And the whole plot's, so much of the plot is built around the problem of Odysseus didn't come home, so we couldn't bury him. So maybe he's dead, maybe he's not. We don't know. But then now, do we move on? Do you get remarried or not? Is the son the head of the household now? It's the whole plot's just driven by the dishonor of not
the wrong
having burial
the
rights.
wrong death.
Right. Or and so like,
and that isn't just ancient, John. You can take that all the way, take it all the way up to John Wesley. One of the books that deeply influences as a young man is Jeremy Taylor, I think it was, Holy Living and Holy Dying. I pulled that book out of the library, and it's a big fat volume, but there's as much in the back half. The Holy Dying section,
dying well,
is just as important. There is a sense for Christians that not just that we get through it, but how we get through it is an important part of this. And the Lord will deliver me from all the evil deeds. Kind of striking because it's there in the midst of Demas has forsaken me. Alexander spoke out. What is that in verse? Go back to Alexander.
The lectionary spared us from some of the complaining.
Alexander,
although I love that stuff.
Alexander did me much harm. The Lord will repay him according. Yeah, there is something in here of saying, I've really taken some hits here at the end. I've been deserted when I was up for defense. There's people that have deserted. I mean, and in the midst of this, he says, the Lord will deliver me and he will bring me safe. I like what you're saying, John. There's a vindication that doesn't mean I get all the glory. It's saying, if there are things that are left, the loose ends, God will tie the loose ends together. He will bring me safely home. And from Paul is saying, I've fought a good fight. I've kept the faith. Just to go back to, it says, and there is, go to verse 8, John, because we just didn't hit that enough. Is in the future, there is laid up. I was struck by the verb is, present tense. It doesn't say there will be laid up for me a crown. It's kind of like the crown is already there. Maybe I'm pushing too much on language that isn't there. But in the future, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness. I like that because I'd like to think
thinking through
the Greek.
The loipon signals that the opening word, and then if we're gonna attend to the tense, then let's go all the way and say this would be a present progressive. There is being laid up for me. Right. And so
I like that. I like that. There is
that. And provided I get across the finish line without having, you got to take a martyr's death very seriously. We tend to project onto the martyrs this kind of like superpower faith.
Yeah.
But of course we only know that because it went well. Most people, when asked, would you like to keep your head or your faith? They pick their head. They're on the chopping block.
You remember my churches. I always talked about the lapsed, the people who just couldn't. We talk about the
church
glorious
found a way
martyrs.
to deal with that. In fact, the church,
but there are a lot of people who
found a way to cope with that.
Right.
And a lot of doctrines emerge out of that. Sacraments, repentance is built around that.
But here's Paul saying, there is being laid up for me. God is already
every step I take is closer to that finish line. But until I cross it,
I have a little thing on my car, John, that's efficiency leaves. And it shows you how, if you're driving well, there's more leaves that come drifting in onto the screen. And when you do a bad break or something like this, the leaves drift off. It drives me crazy, but it's kind of that way. I've got a wreath, and
the Stephanos, it's being woven right now for me.
It's being, and I will receive it on that day. That we don't probably have time to do that one today, but sometime the references, I'd like to go through where Paul, where Paul says, he who has begun a good work in you will bring it into perfection in the day of
his appearing.
I'd love to know what that day meant for Paul. It was kind of the vindication, the capstone.
Yeah.
For us, it's Jesus comes and, we have a celebration. For Paul, it's more of Jesus comes and perfects.
Sets the world right. And puts me in that world. That I am safely, he will bring me safely to his heavenly kingdom.
I'm going to have a place in this right order that he has established at the end. Verse 18. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they parallel really well. Yeah, boy. All right, well, let's take a break and come back just for a few minutes and explore some sermon starters.
Okay. Yeah.
And we're back. Welcome back to Fresh Text. I'm here with my guest, Bud Bence. We're looking at 2 Timothy chapter 4, focusing in on verse 6 through 8, and 16 through 18. So let's explore some sermon starters. I mean, we dropped a lot of little ideas as we just think of many of our listeners are, might be prepping sermons on this very text, even this very week. When they hear it, kind of thinking, again, we don't have to write people's sermons for them, but I mean, you kind of just sort of like, just kind of a nugget of what direction, where would you, I know sometimes when you see a text, you sometimes kind of hit something, you grab it. And so if there was like one little thread that you'd want to follow through, what do you think it would be?
If I were working on this again, I'd explore further that Stephanos. I love that idea of, go back and look at Stephen's martyrdom and Paul being there, and then going to this end. And this is Paul's these are Paul's final words, Stephen's final words. Lord, lay not this charge to their offense, Stephen says. Paul says, with the where was it in there? He said,
verse 16.
Verse 16, yeah.
Don't hold it against them.
Don't hold it against them. The appearing. Those who love his appearing. And Stephen gets this very powerful vision of Christ. And Paul is talking about, and he came and stood by me. I think you could do something on last moments of two people, and how it's the thread of Paul. The first opening preface in Paul's life, holding the clothing, the wrap up at the end, his letter to Timothy. At the end. That's one. Give me one.
I really like that, though. I don't know if I've ever, I've heard sermons that play off, Peter and Judas, for instance, or my wife has a great one on Pilate and Thomas.
Okay.
So I've never heard one on Paul and Stephen. I love it.
Okay.
I love it. And it makes me think of that one little thought experiment I was pitching earlier. Again, this would probably not bubble into the sermon, but it could be background noise, is, when he gives all of these instructions, like, bring me my books and my coat that I left behind. I got to be honest, none of this makes any sense if this is in Rome 4 years later. This makes more sense in my mind in Caesarea.
You're right.
So, but again, that's a minority view in New Testament interpretation. I get it from John A.T. Robinson, who's a wacko. So anyway, But if he's writing this in Caesarea, but with the expectation, I'm going to get on a ship
and go to Rome,
and he just referenced his first defense, which would maybe be his defense there in Caesarea. Now I've appealed to Rome, and I'm going to go. If we take the chronology in Acts seriously, I'm going to go have my second defense now in front of Caesar, and the lion's mouth then might be the threat of his, Jewish elders back in Jerusalem, got rescued from them, right?
And at that point, a confidence about the trial in Rome. I mean, he's not thinking he's going to Rome to die. I'm going to Rome to make my case.
Yes, and he will rescue me.
From every.
And then all of a sudden, the time of my departure could be like actually metaphorical, like literally I'm about to get on the boat.
Oh, that would be a whole new,
which I never thought of until you said that this is nautical terminology.
The time of my departure is coming. You're right.
Now he's still the theology and the spirituality and near the end of his life and his normal ministry's done. He's now in chains. All of that stands. It's just a slightly different chronology, slightly different picture of what's going on. And I brought all that up, not to make the sermon all about that, but to just add a beautiful little twist that you could bring into a sermon because it's very concrete. All of that's very technical.
Yeah.
It's background noise. good sermon, you can always kind of tell, oh, this preacher spent a long time with the text. We're not getting all of it. I don't want to hear a book report from your commentaries. Like speak to me from the heart. What's the, speak from the heart to the heart. But with all that in mind, it makes me think of Philip, one of the seven. And so Stephen's friend.
Okay.
Right. Philip, who is the first Christian missionary outside of Jerusalem because of Stephen's martyrdom. Right. Philip then relocates after the Ethiopian eunuch relocates to Caesarea Maritima. Caesarea, where Paul goes often on his way to Jerusalem.
Right.
And then before he goes to Jerusalem, there's a narrative in Acts chapter 20, 21. He goes and stays with Philip, and he has 4 prophesying daughters. So Philip has settled in there. I know it's one of these little details you just never notice. And he stays with Philip, it says. And this is 20 plus years since 20-ish, I'll say, years since the stoning of Stephen.
Okay.
I don't think there's any reason. It's possible Philip and Paul had never met each other, except that he knew that he was there approving of this.
Right.
So what a beautiful, this moment of reconciliation. And of course, you locate this letter in Caesarea. It makes it even more striking, because then that means Philip's the leader of the church in the town that's taking care of him. It's in Roman prison. They don't feed you. You have to have someone come feed you. So he could be in contact with this. I don't know how that helps the sermon, but it's like throwing one more character in there in the mix. Like, what was this like for Philip? You could even, if you wanted to do a kind of creative sermon where you do it from a kind of first person narrative,
just talk it out.
You could tell it as Philip. You could take Philip of Caesarea's perspective, the man with the 4 prophesying daughters, who's been pastoring here for decades in Caesarea, just hosted Paul in his house a year ago, and now he's been in jail. Him reconciling how are these two guys both
working out, and then putting this in a different.
Then you could do that, because then you'd have someone who would know a lot about Stephen, because clearly Stephen and Philip were 2 of those 7 early
that you were working with
diaspora Jews who were those key first 7 deacons, right?
Yeah.
So that just hit me as I didn't think of the first person thing till the end there of instead of taking, you could
do the monologue, you
could do a monologue from Philip's point of view, either whether that's a thought experiment to help you write your sermon, or, a guy like you would actually do a sermon like that, where you're actually in character.
Yeah, Wilbur's gone now, so we can't do Wilbur Williams kind of thing
I've
anymore.
seen other people do it. I have friends who do that. It's not
John.
Really
here's
my style, but
here's another one that just floated into my brain, and I don't know where. Paul, a nice sermon on Paul's statements about himself, past, present, and future. He that has begun a good work in you will perform it unto the day of Jesus Christ. Right. A very futuristic kind of view. Then you get to, for me to live is Christ, to die is gain. That's kind of present. That's present tense language. Here's retrospect.
It's all perfect tense.
Here's retrospect.
Most of the verbs are in the perfect tense. It's done. It's completed.
And then here at the end, if we want to take it back to being closer to where Paul was in Rome, this is his perspective. Looking ahead, seeing the reality of where I am now, and then that retrospective look. The good. And never forget, if this is future pastors, as much as we want to speak to present generation, you also have a senior citizen generation who, this coming to the end of life is a very difficult thing. What is my legacy? What is my assessment of my life? My dad was a district superintendent, highly effective in the church, sat here in Marion one day in my backyard and said, "But I don't think I ever accomplished anything in my life of significance." And I just wanted to shake him and say, and it was just a perspective of an older person who needs to hear this word of Paul, that enduring the struggle, the agony, agon, as you said, enduring the struggle and running the race and not quitting and keeping the faith is in itself an incredible accomplishment. And we ought to honor the people who come to that point. Tucked in here with this, and he will safely bring me into his heavenly kingdom.
Yeah. And you could even throw in there if you need to throw a bone to different generations in the room,
right?
To mention, notice how many what's one of the things that's hardest for Paul is that so many have abandoned him, right? And so the duty of the younger, and you get the sense he's writing to Timothy with this deep sense, you're still with me, we're still locked, even though you're not physically with me, right?
Come quickly.
What does it mean to be?
I need you right now.
So a lot of times we'll do sermons about, who's your Timothy?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you pouring into? Who are you mentoring? And that's a good question to ask anybody at any age. But you got to flip it around and say, who's your Paul? And are you honoring him? Are you honoring her?
I love that, John.
And the importance of honor.
Yeah.
That every culture, again, is some cultures honor shame's more foregrounded. I think honor shame is also just a human thing. It's all in us.
Yeah.
And I think it's more subordinated in modern cultures, but I think it rises more as you age. To be honored. To know. I mattered. I mattered to someone.
Those of us who are teachers, I'm sure you do the same thing, John. I had this file, and every once in a while when a student would write something, I'd tuck it into this file and say, when I am 75 years old and I am beginning to think that it doesn't really matter anymore, I'm going to pull out that file, and I'm just going to find out that I did fight a good fight.
Did you take that file home? You have it at home with you?
I have it at home.
You know where it is?
I haven't opened it yet. I have a file at home, John.
But I haven't never taken it.
But I haven't reached the point yet where I'm feeling like Demas has forsaken me. It's all coming apart. When it does, and that is something that you quite often find with people of high energy. I don't ever think of myself as high excess. I do think I was pretty high energy. This loss of impact, loss of influence, that must have been affecting Paul too. As he's in prison, you said that earlier. It's writing letters. It's not standing in the courtyard in Philippi at the library or someplace like that, proclaiming in the marketplace. He's at a point in his life where bring the parchments. I don't know. Maybe that's what he wanted, was his affirmation file of letters.
Oh my gosh!
Bring the
I never thought of that.
Bring me the parchments of whatever we have. No, probably.
Of course. Well, I think of that as his. I think he's becoming conscious of an emerging corpus of letters as what he'll be remembered by. I think that's on his mind by now. He's already written Romans by now, so he knows. I'm not just writing for local churches. I'm writing for wider audience.
And we get that reference in Peter that the letters are beginning to circulate. So,
Bingo. So, and that means he may have edited some of these letters himself into their final form. So it could be that some things got left behind, or that but I mentioned that, but the thought of these being his, but they would also be letters from others. And you want to reread those letters, that letter from Philippi when they sent support to him.
Oh, that's right.
To cherish that. It got left in Troas. He wants to get it, wants to pick it up.
References in Corinth to other of exchanges that were coming both ways.
He's probably not going to reread any letters from the Galatians. that got dark.
And on top of that, maybe the parchments were just Paul's favorite passages.
Absolutely. There's so many things that could be. Yeah. I love wondering
what
was precious to him at the end, though. What was precious to him at the end? People and parchments, right? Like
you've got Luke. Luke only. Luke only is here with me. There's a sermon.
Yeah.
People and parchments. Yeah. To help a society which is not reading as much now. I mean, we're into social media, but maybe we all as Christians need to find out what are our parchments. If there were only one or two things you could take.
And who's an elder you're writing letters to?
Oh, yeah. People, John, people and parchments. Yeah. I'm going to take that one and run with it sometime.
Good. I stumbled on that one on accident.
Yeah.
That's good. Hey, well, I had so much fun interpreting scripture with you. I always love doing this. This was great having you on.
You honor me, John.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Love this opportunity to be with one of my students who's done so well.
Well, thank you so very much. Thanks to all our listeners. We appreciate you, especially when you let other people know about the show. Thanks to the Called Collective team for all their production and promotion work. We appreciate it. Couldn't do this show without you guys. Thanks to Todd, Tom, and Eric for helping get this show started all those years ago. Would have never existed without you. And with that said, we say have a good preach and a great week. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
In the summertime.